y'all, it's me Alex. Today I am doing a collab video with my friend Mia of Mia's Virtual Vanity for her Mia-mas. So if you don't know Mia, she is this absolutely delightful human being. She is probably one of the funniest people I know. Her sense of humor and just also her way of like describing makeup is like my absolute favorite in the world. She is gorgeous. I love the eye looks that she creates. She does very like soft and ethereal. Like she was just a gorgeous little fairy and I am always excited to collab with her. Her videos are just absolute perfection. Her anti-hauls on point. Her entire existence fabulous. So she invited me to do a collab for her Mia-mas, which is like Vlogmas but with Mia. So we're going to be talking about our makeup collections if we weren't YouTubers. I also feel the need to note that the eyeshadow that I'm wearing is actually a Mia inspired purchase. It is the Nobla Dreamy 2 palette. She is an ennobler. Yes, I did mention that specifically so I could make that joke. But we're talking about our makeup collections if we weren't YouTubers. So I picked out like some stuff right here that I think would be in my collection if I weren't a YouTuber, and I have a lot of like thoughts and opinions. So there's a lot that really went into me kind of thinking about what it is that would be in my collection, and I really don't think that what I have behind me is necessarily an exhaustive or complete list. Just some of the things that I have kind of been thinking about, because I think that there's also a difference between like what makeup I would use if I just wasn't a YouTuber or like did makeup for social media, and what makeup I would wear if I just simply, you know, wasn't a part of that beauty community at all and didn't know as much as I know now. I'll tell you some of the thought process that went into this before I specifically get into the makeup. So one, in thinking about like if I weren't like generally a part of the beauty community, I know that I probably wouldn't know nearly as many indie brands as I know now, because if you know my collection at all, you know that the majority of the things that I own, especially eyeshadow, is indie makeup. I think one of the things that really went into my thought process about this whole thing was like, it would be less about like me going on Instagram and finding a whole bunch of small independent makeup brands, more like, okay, what appeals to me that I could find at a Sephora or Ulta? And that is a lot more of what you will see back here. And the other thing too is thinking about like the social responsibility aspect of being a beauty YouTuber. I take the fact that I have a platform on the internet very seriously, and I do kind of wonder if to a certain extent my buying habits would be a bit different if I didn't, you know, generally use the makeup that I own on camera. So for example, like I have decluttered a couple palettes from Kat Von D that I really liked simply because I didn't feel comfortable using them on camera anymore. So like the Pastel Goth palette. While I do still have a couple of like Kat Von D products, or like, for example, I also think that maybe I might have bought Lime Crime a little bit sooner, simply because I think that there is also very much a difference between like just giving a company your money as an average consumer, or like giving a company your money and your platform as a social media influencer. Now, that's not to say that I would be like going out and buying Jeffree Star makeup if I was not a YouTuber, but I also say that I probably wouldn't do nearly as much research into brands that I do now. Like if I heard something, you know, completely awful just like through the news or something about a makeup brand that I use, I would say no and not buy from them anymore. But I also wouldn't go out of my way to like pan and declutter things so quickly, because it's not like I would be tagging the brands on Instagram or like promoting it as a favorite in my videos. Just, you know, it would just be something that I use in my day-to-day life. And I, you know, if like someone asked me what lipstick I was wearing and I didn't want to say the brand, I'd be like, it's from this brand, but they've done some really shitty stuff, so I don't want to, you know. I think that there's a big difference between wearing makeup in your day-to-day life that's, you kind of feel a little bit icky about it, and then using it on your platform of like 1,000+ people. So those are the sort of things that went into my thoughts on this. And I think a lot of the makeup that I do have back here are from like, well, it's kind of a combination of stuff that I did buy recently, but also stuff that I kind of got like before or right as I was getting into being a makeup YouTuber. So yeah, let me show you the actual products now. So I still have a bunch of eyeshadow palettes because I think that I would still absolutely be an eyeshadow fiend. When it comes to my makeup, I think I would just be a lot more condensed. And I also kind of wonder, like, okay, if I didn't know as much about indie makeup, I probably wouldn't be nearly as picky about like formulas as I am now. The Urban Decay Electric palette would still absolutely be my bread and butter when it comes to bright eyeshadow. This is, I think, the first really bright eyeshadow palette that was like high end that I bought, that I had lusted after for a long time, even before I really got into beauty YouTube. I just remember being in high school and my youth leader telling me about this brand called Urban Decay that she thought that I would really like because I was like a goth emo kid. And so when I went into a Sephora for the first time when I was like 16 or 17 with my dad at the mall, because we didn't have a mall near us that had a Sephora, but I think he and I were in this, like in a bigger city one day, I forget for what reason, but anyway, it was my first time at a Sephora. And I remember going up to the Urban Decay stand and seeing this palette and being like, this is $49, but I absolutely fucking want it. So for a couple years when I would have money like here and there, I would kind of save it up and like put it on my Christmas list and, you know, do all of the things until I did actually get it. I think probably right around when I first started doing beauty YouTube. I mean, it isn't indie shadows, but this is probably one of the most pigmented, colorful palettes that you could find in a mainstream sort of sense. Perhaps if I never discovered any sort of indie brands, I would absolutely still be using this 24/7, 365. This would probably still be the palette that I use the most out of all of them. I still think that there are others that I would be using, as evidenced by some of the other things behind me. It is so colorful, and I think for a lot of the sort of colorful looks that I really did get into, until I kind of refined my makeup style to be what it is on YouTube. This is such a great choice. I also think I might do like a throwback tutorial with this palette or something soon. It's so close to my heart. I'm never getting rid of this. I also have a backup of it. I probably wouldn't have gotten the backup of it. Let's talk about some Anastasia palettes. Like I said, a lot of this plays into like, what would I find at Sephora or Ulta that would appeal to me? I think these three Anastasia palettes specifically would kind of capture what I want. And for one, I think the subculture, because I know that I do like grungier tones, and I kind of find this to be a little bit more of like a work appropriate colorful palette. I think that this would be very appropriate for that as well. Yeah, I also, if I wasn't online that much, I definitely wouldn't have known about the controversy when it comes to this. I mean, I knew about the controversy and bought it anyway. I wonder a little bit that if I had bought this and I wasn't a YouTuber and I didn't know about the beauty community as much and I didn't know about the drama and I had gotten it, would I have returned it or decluttered it? Because I also wonder if I wasn't a part of all of this, would my makeup skills be what they are today? Would I be as willing to work with a very pigmented but not very blendable product? So this might be something that I would have bought and then be disappointed in, so I would have decluttered it to a friend, because I do think that this is something that you do have to work very hard with. And I think that if I was less invested in the makeup world, then I probably, you know, wouldn't be as into this as I am. So that's kind of my thoughts on that specifically. I felt like this needed to be included one way or another. And then I think I would also definitely have bought the Jackie Aina palette regardless of whether I knew who she was or not. This is obviously a more recent one. But this color story I think is so very unique that I do think it works pretty well, and it's something that I would enjoy in my collection, because I think pre everything that kind of happened with ABH last year, they were pretty well known for having a good eyeshadow formula, and if they hadn't been how they were, I would continue buying a whole bunch of their shadows because I do quite like it. Out of all of the mainstream formulas, it is one of my favorites, sadly. But yeah, this color story would also appeal to me because it does have the colorful, neutral sort of effect. And I think that this, you know, this is one of those things that, yes, it is very YouTuber-y because it was a collaboration with YouTuber Jackie Aina. I think it also, to me, appeals very well in the mainstream market. Like, I showed this to my mom when I got it, and she was also like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, when you come home, can you do my makeup with it? And she doesn't know who Jackie Aina is. She didn't she doesn't really watch makeup YouTubers who aren't, you know? So I think that this is something with like a lot of mainstream appeal that I would absolutely be using regardless of like who made it or how I came across it. Like I could just see myself being in Ulta and being like, oh, that's cute. You know, I like the Anastasia formula. Let me, you know, pick it up. So if I didn't know that like indie colorful shadows existed, I would probably still be very much into these two Too Faced palettes. I do keep these around. At this point, these two are for nostalgia's sake and not because I actually like the quality, but I remember before I was really a part of the beauty community, I was like, holy shit, Too Faced has the best eyeshadows I have ever tried in my life. So I have this cat eye palette. This is actually the first high-end palette that I ever bought, I think, because this was like $36 as like compared to the almost $50 that the electric palette was. This is at a much better price point, and obviously like a couple of the shades in the top row I did get a lot of use out of, and I could see myself like still using a lot of these shades if I didn't know that there were better formulas for eyeshadow out there. And I really don't mean that to be shady, but let's be honest, if I did still like kind of buy from Too Faced, their eyeshadows are purely not what I'm going for. They make much better lip and cheek products in my opinion. And then I also have the Sugar Pop palette from them, and I could see myself being in Ulta and being like, oh my god, look at those colors, because that is kind of what I did. Actually, I think I bought this because I saw Kathleen Lights use it and I wanted the shade Blue Raspberry specifically. It works okay if you pack everything on. Like I said, if I didn't have the knowledge of bright, colorful indie makeup that I have through being a part of the beauty community on YouTube, I think this would be great, but I think it's simply because I have tried so many other brands that have, I think, a lot more intensity to them. That's why these are disappointing to me now, and I only keep them around for nostalgia's sake. Actually, I don't think I have that. Sorry, I'm like second guessing myself now. I also definitely would own the Huda Beauty Amethyst Obsessions palette, and I think I definitely would have bought it a lot sooner than I did. I would very much still crave all of the bright and fun and interesting eyeshadow that I do now, but I would try and find it at like a Sephora or Ulta, so something like this. Especially since it's at a relatively low price point, like I think it's only like $26, $27. I think that this would absolutely be something that I would have bought and kept around because I have always loved purple eyeshadow, like from the time I started wearing makeup when I was 13, and I remember having this purple cream shadow stick from Rimmel London. It was this like lavendery shade that I wore all of the time. As I started buying like more eyeshadow, I had this bright purple big shadow from Hot Topic that I would just like, you know, put all over my eyes, and then eggplanty single from Revlon. And so I've always felt very, very drawn to purple eyeshadow because purple's my favorite color, and I also find that it's just really, really flattering on me. So something like this, that it's all like monochromatic, it is all purple, it is all my favorite color, I would have been in a Sephora and I'd be like, shit, that's mine now. Especially since I think what put me off of Huda Beauty is all of the controversy around her that she seems to have improved on. And if I didn't know any of that about her, I probably would have bought this a lot sooner. I definitely wouldn't have known nearly as much about that as I do from being in the beauty community. So if I just knew like, okay, this is a brand that makes purple eyeshadow and this is like relatively affordable in the grand scheme of brands that are sold at Sephora, I would absolutely buy it. And I think just like as one last eyeshadow palette that I would own, because I'm really trying not to be too excessive, but I also recognize that regardless of like what I show on the internet, I'm not a minimalist by any means. I'm very much a maximalist. Like I have a lot of things. I love everything that I have. I don't keep around things that I think are shit or that I don't have some sort of connection with. But I still would own a lot of eyeshadow if I did not do YouTube. But I think I would also probably keep around my Urban Decay Naked Smoky. This is also bought in my very early getting into makeup days, which is understandable from like how that looks. I think that this is still a really beautiful palette, even though I really don't care for Urban Decay's mattes, because like I said, a huge part of my makeup taste is like While the colors I wear haven't necessarily changed, I've just discovered better formulas of them. While I wore this a lot more when my hair was blonde, I don't know, I just don't feel quite as compelled to cool tones all the time as I used to when I had blonde hair, just because I felt like it looked better on me then. But I do think that this is something that would totally appeal to me, because it is like, you know, you can get some nice neutrals out of this. You can get, you know, your gothy smoky eye out of this, which I was an emo kid, I am an emo adult. Whether you're a part of the beauty community or not, you know of and or own at least one Naked palette. Like, if you were into makeup enough to buy high-end makeup, you have probably owned a Naked palette, and so this would be the Naked palette of my choice. It still is. Well, I haven't tried any of the newer ones, because the Naked Heat and Naked Cherry do kind of catch my eye, but not enough for me to buy it. That's a side point. Anyway, let's talk about face products. I do genuinely wonder like what sort of foundation concealer type base product that I would wear right now if it weren't for makeup, because that was honestly such a journey for me in my like YouTube stuff. Because obviously like right now I just wear a tinted moisturizer, so I really don't know. Would I still just be wearing like my Bare Minerals powder foundation? And I don't think I would hate this if I didn't do YouTube, obviously. Like this is the NYX Bare With Me Tinted Skin Veil. I wear it on my face all the time. I have been basically every day since I bought it a little over a year ago. So I think that this is a great product, and I would still like it regardless of if I was on YouTube or not. I just genuinely don't know where I would be foundation wise, if I would just give up on it completely, or if I would, you know, buy something from the drugstore like a liquid foundation because I felt like obligated to, you know what I mean? I guess it's like at this point in my life, I really don't think too much about my base products at all. So I can't think about it too much for this either. As far as bronzers go, I would either have this Fenty bronzer, or I would probably still have my Too Faced Chocolate Soleil bronzer, because I also wouldn't pay that much attention to like when things expired if I didn't, you know, have a whole lot of makeup knowledge from the beauty community. Like I already kept the Too Faced Chocolate Soleil bronzer a lot longer than I needed to. But yeah, I think that this is just something I'd be like, okay, I'm in Sephora. This looks like a thing that a lot of people use. You know, like you hear the name Fenty and you're like, okay, I know that that is a popular brand. That's by Rihanna. Like with foundation, I really don't pay that much attention to bronzer. Like so long as it's in an okay tone for my face and it doesn't look like orange or streaky, then I am very content with whatever. A part of me does wonder if I'd even wear bronzer at all, because honestly, I barely wore blush until I started doing YouTube, and that was because, you know, I was very much like, okay, I had oily skin at the time, so I didn't want to draw too much attention to my skin, but I also noticed like, okay, if I don't wear anything over top of my foundation and concealer, I'm going to look very like washed out. I think I probably would wear bronzer, because I think at the very least, like I would ask the Sephora employee what I would need to do for my face to like match my eyes and my lips, because let's be honest, that's all I care about. Truly is eyes and lips. That's the fun part of makeup for me. I would definitely keep my Milani Baked blushes. I have Berry Amore and Rose d'Oro. Like these are probably the greatest, I'm not even going to say drugstore blushes, these are the greatest blushes that I own. And they're obviously very accessible. You can get it at CVS, Walmart, Ulta, and I think Milani is probably my favorite drugstore brand anyway, because I've never tried anything from them that like disappointed me. So drugstore, good quality, blush, yeah. And then this is one thing that I know that I would probably have seen at Ulta and picked up. I really don't think I'd own that many highlighters if I wasn't on YouTube, because I recognize that my highlighter habits are owning the same color in a lot of different formulas, because I want to try it out and find the best formula of like neutral-ish highlighter for the YouTubes. And so I would only really need to own one, and this one I found is a Model's Own Sculpt and Glow Highlighter Powder in Golden Sand. I got this for $5 while it was on clearance at Ulta. And something like this that is just very simple, it gives a very wet look to the face. You really can't overdo it with this. It doesn't emphasize any sort of texture or anything on your face. Even though it's been discontinued, I think that this would have been probably my only highlighter in my collection, just because it goes with everything. And I don't think I would feel the need to try out a whole bunch of different formulas of the same thing if I did not have a YouTube channel. I wouldn't have known about the magic of Milani Matte Beauty if it weren't for YouTube. I still think I would absolutely own it because this is my absolute perfect neutral lipstick. And I know that I've always known that Milani lipsticks are great because my mom loves Milani lipsticks just as much as I do. So this is something that we both enjoy. And I would also own their liquid lipstick and loved because this is also just a great nudie neutral tone for me. I don't think I would own nearly as many nude lipsticks as I do if it weren't for YouTube. Because like I said, even though I think that you can get like different tones of it, I wouldn't need that many. I know that half of the reason that I own as many as I do is because I just want to be able to recommend different formulas for if you whatever your preferences are. At least that's how I'm justifying it to myself, let's be honest. Honestly, these would be just about all I would really need as far as a nudie neutral lipstick goes. The one indie brand that I know I would have, because this one actually did not come to me through like me knowing indie makeup. This was a targeted ad on Facebook. This is the Fuck Trump liquid lipstick from Lip Slut, which is a great formula. It smells really nice. It's a good color. It's like it's not quite as nude as it looks in the container. It's definitely a little bit more on the pinky berry side when you apply it. But I know that this is something that I would have impulse bought for the name, and even if I didn't, I think this is just a good, I would have it in my collection no matter what. I would probably still have a lot more of my Kat Von D liquid lipsticks. I basically either panned or decluttered all but these last two. And I don't know why I kept these last two around, honestly. I really don't wear them that much anymore because like I said, for me right now as a person with a platform, the implication of showing a brand that I used to support but no longer support on my platform, I think is a lot different for me than it would be for your average makeup consumer who isn't posting about it on social media. But I probably wouldn't have made as much of an effort to pan all of those as quickly as I did. I think I would have had all the same colors because I had Lolita 2, the black lipstick, the Project Chimps one, blue one. I think I might have had like one other shade, but I did have a whole bunch of shades of these and I don't mind because I think all of them worked really well for me and my style. But I would probably own all of them still. I'm not saying I would necessarily have rebought the ones that I would have finished naturally, but I definitely wouldn't have made as much of an effort to pan everything as quickly as I did and get rid of it as quickly as I did if it weren't for my YouTube channel. And then finally, I would also still definitely have these ABH liquid lipsticks because I think, like I said, it's something that I think everyone, regardless of whether or not you're on YouTube, kind of knows about, like, okay, this is a good formula, people like it. I have it in Potion, Sad Girl, and Catnip. Actually, this is one of my less good liquid lipstick formulas, but I also think that, like I said, if you are not super involved in the beauty community, you're not going to know about nearly as many different kinds of brands and formulas as you would if you're just your casual consumer walking into a Sephora. And so I think that if I didn't know as many liquid lipstick formulas as I do now, like ones that I really prefer, like Colored Rain, the Elegant ones, Sugar Pill, stuff like that, if I didn't know about like those brands of liquid lipsticks, I think that this would be a perfectly fine formula. I would be like, okay, I like the color, it's a little drying, but I'll deal with it. And so I'd probably get a lot more use out of these. Okay, I think that that is kind of it for my makeup collection. If I wasn't a YouTuber, I'm still not entirely sure if I'm content with my answers for this. I've been overthinking this way too much for like the last week and a half. So if I didn't film it soon, it would never get filmed, and I don't want to be that person. Does my logic make sense? Those are just, sort of the things that I'm thinking about when it would come to my makeup collection if I wasn't a YouTuber. I also think to a certain extent, like if I knew more about indie makeup, there are things that I own two of, like I own a couple different green and blue palettes that like I would probably only own one of if I was, you know, not wanting to try all of the different kinds for my channel, you know. I have the Pinky Rose Exotic Peacock, the Certified Affinity 2, the Ace Beauté Oceanic, and I would probably, since those are all in the same color family, I would probably only own one of those. I don't know which one. Probably the Certified or the Pinky Rose, but I'm not entirely sure. So like there's also stuff like that that I would think about. That's kind of what my makeup collection would look like if I wasn't a YouTuber and I didn't know as much about indie makeup as I do. So let me know what you think down below. I'm really excited to see what Mia's collection will look like, because I know that she's going to have a lot of good answers, and I think she's probably definitely going to think of things that I would see and I'll be like, damn, I wish I thought of that, you know? So go check out her channel if you are here from her channel. Hello, hi, I probably should have welcomed you at the beginning. Hi, hello. And if you go over to her channel from me, tell her I sent you. Anyway, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, you are fantastic. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe down below if you want to see more videos from me. And I will see y'all in my next video. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Bye!